It is 11:10 or 11:09, and I'm calling this meeting to order. My name is Kara Cowan Watts, and for right now I serve as the co-chair of Executive and Finance, which places me as the chair of the subcommittee for Tarot Law Reform with respect to our tribal preference laws for contracting and employment, as well as actually terminations and layoff and anything to do with equal employment opportunities or EEOC compliance. Before we have a roll call and declare membership in this subcommittee, could I have the guests for the people in the audience introduce themselves by name?
Todd Embry, attorney for the Tribal Council for now.
Yes, everything's introduced. Thank you, Todd.
I'm Larry Horn.
Thank you.
Hi, Rebecca Mitchell, purchasing.
At the tribe, correct?
Yes.
Patricia Carpenter. System.
And tonight with the Cherokee Commerce.
Thank you very much. Ms. Shelley, would you do a roll call and how you would have us declare as members of the subcommittee?
Do I?
However you choose, whatever's normal practice. We haven't done this in a while, so.
We say here.
Is the normal practice to go through all 17 or just?
What I would recommend is the members present is to announce her name and declare themselves a member of the subcommittee. The subcommittee is who is here. This is our first meeting, so therefore there's obviously a quorum present because you are declaring that you are a member of the subcommittee. So I would just ask that the members present state their name and declare themselves a member of this committee.
So Kara Cowan Watts, and I declare myself a member of this committee. Okay. You'll?
Buell Anglin, and I declare myself a member of this subcommittee.
I'm Don Garvin, I declare myself a member of this subcommittee.
Lee Keener, I declare myself a member of this subcommittee.
Okay, we have 4 members.
Thank you very much. And gentlemen, I appreciate your time here today. We've had this meeting scheduled for at least a month, and I know that the citizens have been notified of the agenda for at least 10 days. So I was quite disappointed when I got an email from some of our council members last night trying to postpone this meeting because apparently they just didn't want to be here today, and that's really sad for the work of the people. So in front of us, for historical value, if those people watching, you can go online to Cherokee.org to Legislar that Shelley Britton here maintained. And the historical background that was provided as agenda items were the existing tarot law, as well as the executive order written by Principal Chief Smith, which I understand is still in place today. So with the 4 folks that are here today, we do have some staff. I don't know if they are here to comment on any particular items, if there's suggestions from our staff for consideration of any amendments to the tarot law or additions. I guess at that time, if you have anything you would like to add, if you'll come to the podium, and again, you would need to state your name and your role. And if you have any specific suggestions for us to consider, we can consider that at this time. I'm not seeing any movement to the podium, so Mr. Hembry?
I'll break the ice. We have, in the past, taken the task of tarot reform in this body. And as President Kennedy once said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with 1 step, and this is that first step. The aspect of tarot reform, obviously, is you see and hear from your constituents, probably on a daily basis, about requisitions, about tarot preference, about how we can make this system better. Will the council be able to make it perfect? No, but it will make it better. There's nothing that hasn't been written that can't be improved upon. As to specific changes, I think at this point the council needs to hear from staff, administration staff, tarot staff, solicit comments and concerns from your constituents and tarot vendors, and maybe even go out to the communities and do outreach in that regard. And then collect that information together and see what the council as a body can do to improve Taro. I will assist in any way possible, be it in this role or any other, because I know that Taro is important. Taro is very important to the Cherokee people. It's been it's been very important to the council, and we've had no less than 3 previous Taro revisions in the last 12 years, and we'll get it right. I would avail to any questions based on those comments. But
Okay, thank you. Mr. Keener, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did.
Mr. Henry, don't sit down. You may have a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I agree with Todd, and I guess I would like to open for discussion what the means would be, how we would make that a public forum for different audiences throughout the 14 counties. I agree. I think the voice of those in Taro right now would need to voice their concerns or opinions on what they want to see done, and also those who are prospective Taro vendors. And I guess I'm opening up for discussion on how we could accomplish this in that area.
And the council has done that before. I know Councilwoman Kellen Watts has hosted Taro reform meetings for constituents in the past and have been well attended, correct?
Yes, I actually wrote the policies for the public participation and how the forum would be conducted the last time we actually held the public comment period for Taro within the council chambers. And I still have those documents. And what I would suggest is we improve those. I mean, I think I learned a lot from that first stab at trying to draft how people would participate and how they would sign up to give comments so that there was order and decorum in the chambers. But I would suggest that we do a public one here in the council chambers that we would schedule with the entire council as executive and finance or as a subcommittee, but that we would also charge each district, whether that was chiefs, the administration, the chief staff, in partnership with the council people or with the council people, to do 6 community meetings that are public town halls, that we would need to set aside a budget for light refreshments as well as the recording of those meetings so that they were included in the public record. So that would be our 5 districts within the jurisdiction as well as 1 at large, even if that is simply just in Tulsa, so that people could easily come in, but that the at-large knew that they felt included. Because we have a number of at-large Taro businesses at this point on the list, and I think that they may have unique needs that we don't understand, and we should allow for them to have that. And I think we need to do one more step, not just the public hearings where there's verbal comments that are brought in front of us where we listen, but also that there is a written consultation period, so to speak, for those folks to provide comment and written submissions for the legislative record.
Madam Chairman, from the, and I remember those meetings, and again, they were well attended. Times have kind of changed since, those meetings till today. And I would ask the committee to consider the possibility of establishing a social network site to allow, vendors to post their ideas or their concerns, so that anything to gain more information from the constituents, I think, would be beneficial.
I think I embrace social media, so but I would be concerned about how we accurately capture those comments, and that there's no integrity in whether we know that's the actual person or not submitting those comments. So at this point, I wouldn't be clear on how we would actually be able to. I mean, I think we could use social media to invite to the event and create activity, but I don't know how we would actually capture those comments in an appropriate manner from a governmental perspective. That would be my challenge. Yeah. I wish we could, because I think a lot of people would probably be more candid on that, but, so Mr. Keener, did that, I apologize, we went around and around, did that
Well,
answer your?
That's our discussion, so that's fine. So we want to have 6 meetings, I guess, as a,
Plus the formal one.
so that sounds good to me, if the committee, that's the will of the committee.
So do I hear a motion, and it would go to full executive and finance at the, not today's monthly meeting, but the next one, to ask for a budget for that then,
Yes.
and a plan?
Yes, I make the motion that we move forward with the Taro questionnaire, so to speak, for the Taro vendors and perspective, and a budget for the meeting.
Before we get a second, let me just clarify. A questionnaire alludes to a mailer,
Okay.
and we've been through that, and it was expensive with election law reform, so.
So let me rephrase it, say an open forum then.
Okay, thank you. Are all minds clear on the motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a question.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the 6, is that 5 in district and 1 at large? Is that how you arrive at the 6?
Yes, plus there would be the one for the council at the council chambers, potentially. So there could be 6 or there could be 7. Depends if Cherokee County and Wagner County or District 1 would want to make that the same and not have a separate forum. Does that answer your question? And is that true of your motion? Did I
Yes,
clarify that correctly? Okay. Are all minds clear? Is there any other questions or discussion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Thank you very much, Mr. Keener, Councilman Keener. So I also heard from our council attorney, Mr. Hembry, that we definitely need to set aside a planned time for Chief Baker's administration to do 2 things. First of all, I would suggest that they tell us how it's implemented today. I have discovered in the past couple of weeks that there are policies I was unfamiliar with that I feel like may not correctly administer the Taro law. So I think we need a full on-record review of how business is done today. And then I think they need to come forward to tell us from Taro and acquisitions, the typical departments that deal with Taro compliance, come forward to us with recommendations. In addition to that, I would also recommend that we do allow for an employee review. I know that Chief Baker has committed to an open door policy from hearing from the employees. And I think that the employees should have the right then to come tell us whether or not Taro works actually out in the departments when they're trying to do things as simple as maybe like ordering T-shirts and how that works. What are the things that the actual employees administering the day-to-day outside of Taro and outside of acquisitions face that might be something we're not seeing within the law? Because he said they can participate and do and say whatever they want in the government. So maybe we need to have a different meeting just for them to allow them to do that. Then the other suggestion I would do is that once our new Attorney General is seated, that the lawyers in the AG's office review the current law to see if there are any legal technical issues that we have not dealt with or not maybe anticipated that need to be dealt with. And I would recommend this to be done in the next 6 months. And that would be in addition to whatever we actually bring forward as the actual amendments to the law. If that's acceptable, is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions?
And this to be sent to the full EMF?
Well, this sets our agenda
Right.
then as a motion. This sets the agenda for this subcommittee.
Okay.
That within
Got
6
it.
months, we need to get this work done, or at least have it in place. So hopefully at the end of 6 months, we would have a revised act to go to full executive and finance committee and then be considered at council.
Got it.
I know personally one of the things I want to do as a council person is make the executive order law that's in place today. And one of the things that I would like the AG's office to consider is how, without giving up our tribal sovereignty, how do we make the tribal government compliant with taro, because that's an ongoing issue. We need to be able to enforce taro at the tribe. Another thing that's been brought to my attention is the potential that there's been integrity issues within the taro office on actual certification of taro vendors, which then lessens our entire program for Indian preference. So we need to be able to put some kind of mechanisms in place to protect the people that protect the integrity of the taro program. So is there any other things, because I think today was really, I thought everybody would be here. You know, they've been clamoring for this meeting for months now. So I thought there was a lot to say about taro. I know it's all important on our agendas because we're all four here. And there was a couple of people that couldn't be here this morning, unfortunately. And I knew that up front. And they'll join the meeting later. But I assumed there was be a large number of folks. I know Councilman Lay had put a lot of time and effort trying to get this meeting, so I was disappointed when he decided yesterday for whatever reason he wouldn't be here. So at what point, is there anything else that we need to set the agenda for going forward on this subcommittee in order to get our work done within the next 6 months?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilman Keener.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Todd, I guess is direct this question toward you or to you. In the other subcommittees, we talked about definitions and so forth, and I've really got 2 points. Where it says tribal member in Section 4, letter R, it says tribal member. So I'm not taking issue with that. My questions is whether we need to relook at the definitions, take another look at that, and do we want to put Cherokee Nation citizen there rather than tribal member? Just on that one, that's a small nomenclature, but I have, there may be an instance where a business is co-owned by a Cherokee Nation citizen and a non-Cherokee Nation citizen of another nation. So that would need to be clarified in my mind. As far as if we're going to be having Cherokee preference, which I think we are. And then also, as you've read through this, I don't know if there's any other thing that needs to be tweaked at all. But I think we should spend some time looking at that, not in this meeting, but in the subsequent meetings.
I would wholeheartedly agree. If you've heard me say it once, you've probably heard me say it 100 times. Words mean things, and they have definite definitions, both in the legal and the everyday sense. And it is appropriate, especially when we're going. This is a major undertaking, and we need to look at every aspect of the law, especially the definitions, as you just stated out. I mean, there's a difference between tribal member and Cherokee Nation citizen, if we're going to, in which we do practice Cherokee preference and then Native preference. So we need to make sure that those definitions are distinct. To answer your question, yeah, you're right on track. We need to go through every word of the statute, and with what Ms. Callan Watts had said earlier, to get as much public input and employee input. She brings up a really good point. The employees are where the rubber meets the road. Okay, buying T-shirts, getting a battery, getting a housing plumbing part. How does that work in the real world? Are we costing the nation money? Or is there a way that we can save the nation's money and ensure that tribal taro vendors, get served correctly, or get the first shot at it? That's an excellent point, to see exactly how this operates. I've been around the tribe and with the tribal council for 12 years, and I don't know the first thing about purchasing or requisitions. So it would be very helpful for me in whatever role I have is to understand that. So I think that's a very good point.
Thank you, Todd.
Did you have anything else, Mr. Keener?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mr. Hembry. One thing I would also ask the AG's office is to look at Cherokee preference first over other Indians, not just Indian preference, but I understand that it is not explicitly written in the law. It should be that Cherokee Nation citizens are first. And I believe you helped me with an act very early in my first term on council about changing members to citizens everywhere, which would have come about in the codification process. So we'll fix that. Okay. If there is nothing else at this time, we need to set the next meeting schedule. Does this time before E&F work and rules on the Thursday when we're already in town work? And is that what the will of the body, or do we need to move it to, I don't know if we have the ability to, with all the meetings crammed on the Monday before council, to put it then? So is it okay if we schedule this at 11 o'clock in February on the 23rd? Keep with that?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
So I heard a motion from Buell Anglin
Second.
and a second from Councilman Keener. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Gentlemen, I greatly appreciate your time today. I appreciate the time of the staff and the citizens that have joined us, Mr. Hembry and our IT folks, Ms. Shelley, everybody. Thank you very much. And if there are no further, without any objections, we are adjourned.